Hello everyone. Welcome to the StarTree launch event. My name is Kishore Gopalakrishna. I am the CEO of StarTree and also the co-creator of Apache Pino. The world of analytics is constantly evolving and changing. As you all know, the rise of real-time analytics has changed the world today. There is another trend that's going on, which is the user-facing analytics, where companies are realizing the power of providing user-facing analytics, real-time analytics to their customers and end users. Today, I'm going to walk you through the journey of what I saw at LinkedIn and what led to the creation of Apache Pino and how it's redefining the world of real-time analytics. LinkedIn has grown a lot in the last 18 years. We have gone from 37,000 members to 740 plus million members. There were a lot of projects that were created at LinkedIn to fuel this growth. I've been fortunate enough to not only witness this journey, but also co-create some of these awesome projects. Let's take a step back and see where it all started and how we got to what it is today. When it started, it was all simple. All the entities and the events within a company were stored in a single Oracle instance. The external users were interacting through an app, and all the transactional processing was done on this database. At the same time, the analysts within the company were running their analytical processing queries on the same database. This was the happiest path for pretty much any engineer in their career, where everything is done on a single thing. But that doesn't want to last long. The contention between the transactional processing and the analytical processing starts impacting the user experience. And this happens very quickly. As soon as the company starts growing, this is one of the first issues that anyone will see. The solution is very simple and it's been done many times, which is to separate this into two databases, one for your external users and another for your internal analyst. But the key thing to note here is by doing this, we kind of lost one of the most important properties, which is there is no real time anymore. The data on which the analysts are acting on is probably a day or hour or even in some case weeks or months old. While that was the first change, and pretty much every company goes through that very quickly, LinkedIn had another challenge. LinkedIn number of users, LinkedIn grew drastically from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to even millions of members. Once they hit the scale of 100 plus million members, a lot of things started falling apart. The first thing that the change that happened at LinkedIn was actually the rise of microservices. As the company grew, there were a lot of teams created, there were a lot of products and services, and the obvious thing to do there was to create microservices. This is the first change, which is the rise of microservices, which help multiple teams to move very fast and also be able to develop products at their own velocity. The second was the rise of NoSQL systems. The RDBMS was very popular and it is popular for the last 40 plus years. Changing something like that and disrupting that technology was not easy. NoSQL in the beginning was, everyone was skeptical about this. Is it going to really solve the problem? But there were two key important things that it actually solved. One is being able to serve millions of concurrent requests at any given time, at the same time being horizontally scalable. The RDBMS was not really geared to meet all these demands of the new social media network. While the entities started growing, there was another exponential growth in the number of events that had to be tracked. So the NoSQL world was, while the NoSQL was good for catering to the explosion in the entities, the event explosion was even bigger. And that's what led to the creation of Kafka at LinkedIn, which became the de facto messaging platform. And all the events are in a company, which is how many people look at the product, how many people, how do they interact with others, everything started getting tracked. And this was super critical for the business to build the right products. And this led to the creation of Kafka. If you kind of look at it, the first thing was a single system, and now we have gone into multiple instances of the same, and this is what is the rise of distributed systems, you can call. While all these things were happening, the data warehouse was actually falling behind. The formats in the NoSQL were changing from structured to semi-structured, JSON, Avro, Parquet, Protobuf. There were a lot of emerging formats which were much richer, which could actually represent hierarchical data models. At the same time, just the data from generated by the company was not enough for the analyst and other folks within the company. They had to get access to the external data sources, and those were not really made. The data warehouse was not really made to store this enormous amount of data required for analysis. That's where we saw the rise of data lake. At LinkedIn, we used HDFS and with the Hadoop technologies, where pretty much all the data from the event store, NoSQL store, and the external sources all ended up. The next transition that we saw here was the data democratization, where it was not just the SQL analysts had the access to this. With the rise of data lake, pretty much everyone could have access to this valuable data. So the data engineers, execs, scientists, everyone started accessing this through different means. Some of them use SQL, some of them use dashboards, and some of them were doing programmatic access via tools like Hadoop, Spark, Hive, and others. This brought in a big change within the company, right? Everyone is now making informed decisions and building more tools, and they're getting a lot of value of the data that is getting generated. And this is typically the state of most companies as of today. And this is what everyone calls it as the solving the data democratization, where pretty much everyone is getting access to this data. But I would like to question this assumption. I don't think we really solved data democratization. The key thing here is people always think about internal users as the only key people who should have access to this data. But think about it for a second. What about your customers and end users? Don't they have to make decisions? Don't they need access to this data? That's kind of what is super important and what we call it as user-facing analytics, which is to empower your customers and end users to make informed decisions and not just restricting the value of this data to enable internal users. This exact idea of providing analytics to our end users and their customers was what got us started. That is exactly what helped us build what we know today as Apache Pino. The goal of Apache Pino was always to provide analytics to all, not just restricting the access of this data to the internal users of the company. It has to be powering the insights and the data products that we build on LinkedIn for the end users and the customers. Not just restricted to the batch, but also be able to provide the insights in real time. This was a big undertaking that we took on at LinkedIn to solve such a complex problem. Very soon, we will look into what are all the challenges of building a user-facing analytics and how we tackle that with Pino. Before getting there, just a quick look at how did Pino fit within the ecosystem. One of the best parts here was the availability of the messaging platform. It was very easy for us to simply drop in Pino, point at a Kafka topic, and we are able to build data products on top of it. At the same time, we built the ability to ingest data from data lake, where the data would come from external sources as well. Let's take a quick look at one of the most popular LinkedIn products, the Who Viewed My Profile. Here, you get real-time insights on all the views on your profile. You can know where your views are coming from, which industry, and also who are looking at your profile. This is an amazing product that was built at LinkedIn and was immensely popular and successful. Let's take a quick look at what are the challenges of building something like this. If you take a close look at this, there are two parts to this. One is providing the aggregate insights, which is typically the analytical queries. At the same time, you also want to know what are the individual events of that profile views. Most systems are good at providing one or the other, but our challenge was to build a system that can provide both aggregate queries and access to individual events at the same time. The second requirement here was to be able to provide insights in real time. What does it mean? That means as soon as someone looks at your profile, within seconds, the insights needs to be refreshed. Myself used to be a huge skeptic of this. Like, why would someone really need insights in real time? But the data proved me wrong. There was huge increase in the engagement once we started providing this. As a matter of fact, today, 5,000 people are looking at who viewed my profile at any given second. And not just LinkedIn, a lot of other companies are realizing the value of providing insights in real time. And that's one of the reasons why the real time industry has taken off, and there is so much demand for providing insights in real time. Last but not the least was to provide the best of two worlds, right? If you are familiar with the transaction processing world, they're very, very good. They're made for handling very high concurrency and still be able to provide millisecond latency. But they limit the query pattern. It's always key based. So you look at a particular key. And that's one of the reasons why even NoSQL was born. But with the OLAP, you get full SQL, you get ability to slice and dice, roll up and drill down. But they were not really made for high concurrency because it was always focused on internal users. And they're not really stringent on the SLA part. Seconds to minutes is totally fine. But our challenge here was to provide this millisecond response, and not just millisecond response for the external users, but even for the millions of, when it scales to millions of users, still be able to maintain that SLA. Because as you know, external users are not as forgiving as the internal users. So if the page takes more than few, not even seconds, few hundreds of milliseconds to load, they just move on. And that's exactly the challenge that we took on when we built Pino. We knew from day one what are the challenges that we are going to face in the user-facing analytics world. And we built this to handle thousands of QPS, provide data freshness in seconds, and still be able to maintain millisecond level latency. The key question that I always get is like, what does it cost? How expensive is it? Do I have to put in a lot of, is the hardware cost a lot? Is the operating cost a lot? That was true when before we built Pino. In fact, the first version of who viewed my profile, we needed 1,000 boxes just for that. But the good news was the value that we got, even when we used 1,000 nodes, was enormous. And the company encouraged us to build a more efficient system. And that's what got us to build Pino. Once we built that, we went from 1,000 nodes to 75 nodes. Not only that, if you kind of look at the engagement, it went from thousands of queries to 5,000 queries per second. So with this, we really had the breakthrough that we can pretty much build any user-facing analytics app. And today, fast forward 5, 6 years, we have 70 plus products. It's almost become a de facto thing to provide analytics on pretty much every product on LinkedIn. We have 70 plus products serving 150,000 queries per second and still being able to maintain millisecond level latency. So any number or any chart that you see on LinkedIn today, the probability of that is very high probability that it's coming from Pino. This was not just at LinkedIn. Many other companies have started leveraging this technology. If you look at the food delivery industry, it's a very good example of a marketplace consisting of eaters, restaurants, and riders. So every order that you place can go into a system like Pino, and the internal platform team within a company can look at this data, look and have ability to analyze this data and get insights in real time. They can look at what are the long requests, how long is the order being prepared, but there is no rider to actually pick it up. Is there a possibility that no one has picked up in the last 10 minutes? How can we make sure that there is a very good experience for both the restaurants and also to the users? The eaters are also getting very good user experience because now they can get to know what are the most popular items that are getting sold in the nearby area. Last but not the least, the restaurants, our owners are now having amazing ability to know how many orders are being placed, how long is it taking to deliver an order, and what is the delay, and should I get new help from others, hire new people to actually improve the experience. So now a restaurant owner is having access to this data in real time. It's an amazing thing to see this in real world. And this is just not in one or two companies. A lot of companies have started doing this. If you're interested in learning more, now Mike from DoorDash is going to talk about all the challenges of building something like this at DoorDash. And he's going to talk about how he has leveraged Pino to actually address some of these challenges here. Fintech is the next industry which is growing a lot as we speak. There are tons and tons of transactions that they have to track in their observability product. It's super important for the folks internal to make sure that the funds are moving and are also tracking in the right direction. They have to make sure that the source and the destiny, the funds move from the source and destination without actually falling apart. And this has to go through millions and billions of data points and still be able to tell what is the exact problem and where is the exact problem. So this ledger observability is a very hard problem. Peter from Stripe and will be talking about this in a couple of hours. Please stay tuned to learn more about the challenges here. In terms of the merchants, that's another user-facing application example where the merchants themselves need to know what are all the transactions that have passed through them, what are the payments that they have received, what is the total payment, what is the transaction. So they're able to do slicing and dicing across all these different dimensions. So the data volume is huge. The requirement from the number of merchants are huge, and at the same time you are able to provide all these insights to the merchant. So this is a very, very hard problem at scale. And again, you will be able to learn more about how Apache Pino is used to overcome these challenges. Retail is also very interesting. If you kind of look at it, that most of these retail chains have a lot of franchisees and also store locations. Enabling the internal data scientists, analysts, execs, and PMs with real-time data helps us build better product, helps them build a better product. They can figure out what are some of the operators within the company can figure out if there are any issues with the order fulfillment pipeline. At the same time, the consumers can get better experience. They can figure out what are the most popular items that are getting sold, what is the availability of a item near the store's location. So all those things can be provided to the end users as well. Last but not the least, the franchisee stores, they can get very, very good service performance dashboard. And providing all these ability to do basket analysis, cohort analysis, and inventory management helps them actually figure out what are they missing and also improve their operation efficiency. It's not just these industries. There are tons of other industries, in security. You can think of other delivery companies, insurance. There are so many other industries that are actually capitalizing on this technology today and being able to empower their customers and users with real-time insights. The Pino adoption has grown a lot in the last 1 year. We have more than 1,400 members in our Slack community. We have more than 400,000 downloads in just last 1 year. So the adoption is growing exponentially here. So what that does lead to? So one of the goals that Pino has was started was to provide analytics to the millions and of end users, and that's why Startray is to bring that power of Pino to the masses and to the world. While we work on bringing the power of Pino to the world, we are also working on something cool, which is to prepare Pino for the next revolution, where it's not just about users querying this. We will have billions of machine querying real-time analytics store and being able to make automated decisions. This is the future that I'm super excited of. My friends, with that, I would like you to welcome to the new era of user-facing analytics. Thank you so much for listening, and I would encourage you to join Apache Pino Slack community and also let us know what are the cool things that you are planning to build, and we would like to be part of that. Thank you.